Josh and Brett, everybody.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, for having us here. This has been an amazing couple of days for us. I got to tour the College of Arts and Letters yesterday and see all the amazing things that are happening over there. It's just incredible, and I'm really, really happy to be back. And some of you were earlier at the student send-off, and so some of the beginning of this we might repeat, but then we wanted to go into some examples of kindness in our community and how we built our community stronger with kindness. I learned better from examples than from lecturing, which was really evident in my GPA here, so in this very room sometimes.
And we want to make sure to save time at the end to answer any questions that you might have. But the examples we're going to give you are really about how we think in our company about starting ripple effects in our community. And so hopefully you'll be inspired by some of the ripples that we have created.
But for those of you who weren't at the student send-off earlier, I'm Josh Kummer-Purcell, and who are you?
I'm Brent Ridge.
And we are the founders of Beekman 1802. We've also been together for 23 years now, married for I'm not sure how long. Apparently I'm 70-something years old, so I'm forgetful.
I stayed up too late at the bar at the Graduate Hotel, I guess.
That was. I was going to tell all the students that you were from U of M. He's not, but I just wanted to see what would happen. And so we founded our company, Beekman 1802, based on two key ingredients, goat milk and kindness. And the way that we started, we had no plans. This was not our goal, this was not our dream. This just happened to us. And it started with Brent was a physician we were both in New York City. I worked in advertising and I'd written several books. And Brent was a physician and he worked in Mount Sinai Hospital, and then he began Martha Stewart's health and wellness division of her company. And we were that typical obnoxious Manhattan couple that every autumn we would drive to upstate rural New York and bother local people. Like, we would put on our best plaids and rent a car and do that.
They charged us like $60 to pick a pumpkin,
Yeah.
you know,
that they bought wholesale and put in the middle of a field. And so every year we would go apple picking, and one year we found this little town called Sharon Springs. Oh, these are our products. By the way, just last week we were named the best skincare brand for the year in Ulta Skincare, so we're very happy. And we were going apple picking, and we stumbled into this little town called Sharon Springs, New York, population 547 people. And there was one business in town that had lights on. It was a little hotel bar. We stopped in, we fell in love with it, we wound up staying the night. That was their business plan. They overserve so that you actually have to spend the night. And on our way out of town the next morning, we came across a little farm called Beekman Farm. And it, like, gorgeous property. It was for sale. This was 2006 when, like, mortgages, they were handing them out free on the street. And
we said, we want a free mortgage.
And we cashed in everything we owned, and we bought this $1 million empty farm.
Which was great because, you know, at that time, all of our friends were buying their weekend places, so we thought we had to keep up with all of our friends. And shortly after we bought it, and we were only going to use it on the weekends, so that's how obnoxious Manhattanites can be. And a couple of weeks after we purchased it, we came up on the weekend, and we opened up the mailbox, and there was a handwritten letter in the mailbox, and it said, "My name is John, and I grew up in this area on a dairy farm, and I am losing my farm. And I have a herd of 80 goats. Could I please bring them to your property to graze? Otherwise, I'll have to sell my herd." And so we met with him and saw how much he loved the goats. If any one of you saw our old show, The Fabulous Beekman Boys, you'll know how much he loves the goats. And there was another little house on the property, and we said, "You can come stay rent-free, it's fine, bring the goats." Because again, at that point, we were still the obnoxious Manhattanites. So we're like, we have a petting zoo. And, it just became, the reason we call it that, the original act of kindness, was because in 2008, when the recession hit, we both lost our fancy jobs in the city. And remember, we had cashed in everything we had ever saved to buy this place, so we had nothing. We were like sub-nothing because we had this huge mortgage. And we had to figure out what we could do with goat milk that could pay the mortgage off on the farm. And
Here's Farmer John here.
Oh, that's him.
Those are our goats.
He's still with us to this day.
So we had nothing to our name, so we literally sat down and Googled, what can we make with goat milk? And goat milk soap was the very first result that came up. And there was a woman in town who was making soap, and her name was Deb McGillicuddy, and we said, can you teach us how to make soap? So she said, sure, not only that, I will join you and we'll do this together. So she started making soap with us. We learned how to code our own website. We learned how to take product photography. We learned how to take credit card transactions, and we launched a website because it was all we could do. And we got like 2 orders the first day. We were thrilled. And then as we grew...
My mom and his mom.
Yeah. And your mom returned it. And it was great. Our neighbors were helping us, and as we were getting bigger orders from small stores in the region, our neighbors came over and started helping us wrap soap around our dining room table. They knew we couldn't pay them, but they knew that if we could grow a company, it was going to help the entire community. And so this is really our story about that original act of kindness that we didn't even know was going to happen, taking in Farmer John. We didn't know anything was going to come of it. And how 2 years later, when we needed it, that kindness came back to us. And how this mutual connection with our community not only grew our company, but has saved our village in Sharon Springs, New York, and really rippled out across the country with our products. I honestly forget what we have. Oh, so all those neighbors that came over to help us wrap the soap, they also became first customers because they wanted to support us. And early on, we don't even really remember how this happened, but we started calling all of our customers neighbors. And we didn't do it on purpose, but it became really important because a customer is a transaction, right? Just as when you're doing a charitable act, somebody receives charity, somebody gives charity, and then it's over. A neighbor is an ongoing relationship. So that's how we've always looked at not just the people who helped us grow our company, but the customers around the country. They've all called themselves neighbors, and that was the beginning of the big Beekman community, the Beekman neighborhood, as we call it.
And creating that sense of community and commonality is so important, and you already have it. Like, this has been my first real experience at MSU, and just hearing the go green, go white, and how many times you use it, like, it immediately brings you all back together. And so that's a really, really powerful thing that you already have at your disposal.
So that's
your neighbor.
Yep. And so as we were growing the soap, we started meeting other people in the community that were doing pretty great things. There were weavers, there were blacksmiths,
glass blowers.
They were making all these incredible products. But again, this is a community of 547 people in the poorest county in New York State.
And 15 years ago, before internet commerce really had grown.
And we realized that what we had to offer was we knew how to market things. My advertising background, his media background, and we were growing our company based on our ability to market. So we looked to our neighbors who were doing these incredible things, and we brought them in, and we started making them part of Beekman. So they would create products, and we would market for them. So pretty soon we had over 300 different products from these local craftspeople selling through our website, and growing our community that way, bringing funds into the community that way.
But the biggest example of the ripple effect at work is our Harvest Festival. So the very first year that we were there, and again, we said Sharon Springs is this very rural community. Schoharie County, which is our county, is very agricultural. It's probably I think it's the second poorest county in all of upstate New York. And we looked around at all this beautiful farmland, this beautiful little village, and we said, we've got to get more obnoxious Manhattanites up here to spend their money. And so we said, we're going to have a harvest festival. And we went to the town board, and we said, we have this idea of a harvest festival. And they were like,
we're like,
we tried that.
We tried that, it didn't really work. And we're like, what happened? What went wrong? Maybe we can help with this. I said, well, it was the weekend that JFK got shot, and nobody really wanted to come out. And that was like 40 years ago.
40 years. And that's how small communities are. Something fails, and then it takes a long time to get people convinced that they can be successful again.
So we said, we will do it. The two of us and a few neighbors, we're going to throw this harvest festival.
So we dressed Josh up as William Beekman, like in leotards and shoes with buckles and a trifold hat. He stood at the intersection of the highway with a bell and waved people down into our little village. And that year we had about 500 people show up into town.
And we thought that was amazing, 500 people in a town of 547. That was incredible. We had also started filming our TV show, which TV show sounds like a big deal. It wasn't. It was on a little tiny network, and they came to film. It hadn't aired yet, so they filmed this little festival that we threw by ourselves, and over the course of the next year, that episode aired. So the following Harvest Festival came, and we drove into town the morning of the festival, and there were over 5,000 people that had come to town, 5,000 people to our town. The school parking lot was overflowing, the entire place was crowded, and by noon on Saturday, the town had run out of food. We had 1.5 restaurants.
And it was a 2-day festival. People. It was a 2-day festival with no food.
And is that you? Don't move. Stay like that. And we ran out of food. And about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I started seeing people walking around with hot dogs and hamburgers. And I asked them, where'd you get that? Where'd that come from? And it turned out that one of the village residents, one of the people that didn't want to have a harvest festival the year before, saw that the food was out, drove 40 miles to the nearest grocery store, bought all of the hot dogs, all the hamburgers, all the buns, all the coleslaw, all of everything, came home, set up a grill on his front lawn, and gave it away to people. And after the festival, we went back to him and we said, here, the store did good for us, let us pay you back for that. And he said, nope, you boys brought those guys to town. I wanted to make sure nobody went home hungry. And so that's okay.
Yeah.
And that was, when we realized that we could build our community, we could be of service to our community, and our community could be in service to us, and that's how we all succeeded and we all grew together.
And then for the next 10 years, the Harvest Festival continued to grow, all run by volunteers in our community who were stepping up to do whatever their talent was, whatever they could offer, until the 10th anniversary Harvest Festival. Some of the pictures you see here with the Welcome Home. We collaborated with Sony Pictures, who were releasing the Mr. Rogers movie at the time. And we had 20,000 people come to that festival, fitting for the 10th anniversary, but also the last festival before the pandemic started. So it was just a really special time. And again, all done through the volunteers because of that original festival and seeing the success and then seeing it build every single year. That's why we want to say that ripple effect is so powerful no matter how small you have to start.
Sorry if I get a little weepy when I turn 74. It really. So another great example of kindness and how kindness can actually be a winning strategy. Some of you were here this morning at the send-off. We ran the Amazing Race, and the way we actually got on the race was through our neighbors.
Yeah, we were doing a book signing at the library in Santa Monica, and after the book signing, one lady had stayed until the very end to get her book signed. Older lady, maybe 80. She had an oxygen tank with her, like super unassuming person. And she said, every day my next door neighbor comes over and we watch your show together, and it's like our time just for ourselves and for us to bond. And, in my mind, I'm like, oh, these two older ladies, and they're watching the show together. That's so nice. And she said, and she's the president of CBS Reality TV. And I didn't believe her because why would this president, be watching our show with her? And so kind of flippantly, I said, well, if she's such a big fan, why aren't we on The Amazing Race? And honestly, we thought nothing of it. And got home, back to the farm. 2 days later, the phone rang. And someone said, hi, we're calling from The Amazing Race. We heard you wanted to run. And the true story of this woman was that her next door neighbor was the then president of CBS Reality TV. That woman's husband had a terminal illness, and the wife was working her job as an executive at CBS, trying to care for her dying husband. And every Thursday night, she would go over as her respite from caregiving to watch our show. And that was like her peace of mind. And
it was that neighbor to neighbor ripple effect that actually, this was a time when we needed that money that got us on The Amazing Race. And earlier, those of you who were there heard our story, how we decided that we were going to be the kind team, that we were going to be the team that helped others. And
well, let's just say how we decided that, because we thought there's no way we're going to win. Like, we didn't enter the race to win, but we said, okay, if we can make it halfway, we will have maximized the exposure for Beekman on The Amazing Race, because no one's going to start watching the race halfway in. And we got to the halfway point, and so that's why we could be, kinder and just kind of more relaxed with it. And we got to the halfway point, and we just didn't lose. We just kept going.
And part of that was we were helping other teams, and then not that they wouldn't have beat us if they could have beat us, but over time we weren't involved in alliances. Nobody was trying to get us out of the race, and we just kind of flew under the radar until the end. And then it came down to us and 2 Chippendale dancers and a college, a University of Texas football player and her cheerleader girlfriend.
And his cheerleader girlfriend.
Yeah, and the last challenge was a math problem. And apologies to any Chippendale dancers in the room, but it's not that hard to beat Chippendale dancers at math. Even as an English major, it wasn't that hard. So we won, and that itself was an amazing effect and ripple effect that brought even more people to our community to visit and support Sharon Springs. And that was sort of the second wave of helping Sharon Springs.
And I'll say we don't have the slide for this, but one of the things that happened out of The Amazing Race was we were able to pay off the mortgage on the farm, which was really what helped us start investing more in our company and growing our company. But we felt so overwhelmed by the opportunity that gave us that we then wanted to spread that forward and ripple that out. So for the whole year after we ran The Amazing Race, we created a pasta sauce called the Mortgage Lifter Pasta Sauce, and did a collaboration with Target, and 25% of all of the proceeds from the sale of that sauce got to help other farms around the country pay off their mortgages. And I think that there are just always opportunities where you can think how you can then start that ripple effect, because now all of those farms that were helped during that project, they're starting their own projects and helping their communities in different ways.
The pandemic, of course, was a challenging time for all of us, and we, as a company that espoused kindness, we felt it was really imperative for us to do what we could beyond selling products, marketing products. We were selling on TV retail at that time. How can we use our brand positioning to help people during this, really tough time?
And so going into the first year of the pandemic, everyone who had planned to get married during that first year of the pandemic had to cancel their weddings. At the same time, we wanted to give people opportunities to come and experience the farm because you could walk around, it was safe, you weren't in a big group close to one another. And so we worked with this artist out of Brooklyn named Tom Fruin, and he created this rainbow cathedral that for the time being was sitting on the top of one of the hills on the farm. And what we said was that anybody whose wedding had been postponed because of the pandemic, if you still want to get married, we're going to do a wedding marathon. And it's completely free. You just have to sign up. You can bring your people. And during that 24-hour, and it went around the clock, we had people getting married at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and our employees actually got certified to do the ceremonies themselves.
Yeah, this is one of our employees right here, Allison. And we had 36 couples get married over the course of that 24-hour day. And again, the ripple effect, because now they spread that out into their communities. They come back to Sharon Springs for their anniversary, and then they bring people with them to celebrate. An
initiative that we're doing now, again, is a really literal example of the ripple effect. We had learned in our research that our number one customer base for Beekman products were nurses. And stood to reason, we're a brand about kindness and goat milk and really effective products. And what are nurses? They deal in kindness every day. Like, that's a huge portion of their job.
And we worked with the American Nursing Association to figure out how many people does the average nurse interact with a moment of kindness every single day. And it turns out that each nurse touches in some special way 40 people a day. That could be a patient or a family member, something like that. So, and there are, forget how many millions of nurses there are in the United States. So if each of those nurses are spreading that moment of kindness, and then that person takes that back out into their family and shares that kindness, and that family member takes it out into the community and shares that kindness, that's an enormous ripple effect. And that's what we're always trying to do. How can we create more and more ripple effects?
So we started a program called Nurses First, where we had all these amazing firsts for nurses. So we got the first row of Broadway play, Some Like It Hot, and filled it with nurses.
We really tried to get first row seats at Taylor Swift concert, but that didn't happen.
We got first edition of the Hottest Summer Reads from HarperCollins. What else did we do? We had, first row of, this is coming up, we've got the first row of fashion show for Fashion Week in New York City, all reserved for nurses.
We're working on getting them to throw out the first pitch at a Chicago Cubs game.
We've a deal for the first pumpkin spices lattes that come off the line in the fall are going to nurses.
And again, yes, it's about honoring a small group of nurses in those communities, but it's also when we then take those moments, publicize them on social media and to our community, or even to local press, it's about reminding everybody in the community, not just about, hey, you've got these amazing nurses and they spread kindness in your community. It's reminding everybody who hears that story, sees those images, wow, kindness is important, and I need to honor those people who are responsible for spreading kindness.
And then sort of our biggest initiative to date has been our work with kindness.org. And this came about because everybody sort of everybody likes the idea of kindness and niceness and caring, right? It's a nice word, people use it all the time, but it's really squishy. It's a word that people can use and they maybe don't even mean it, but it sounds good, so it rubs off well on organizations and things like that. So we said, we believe that kindness is really an amazing strategy. It's a competitive strategy. As a business, we became the #1 beauty brand on HSN and QVC. We're named the best of Ulta. We're the #1 independent beauty brand across America. We have used kindness as a competitive strategy. Now that might sound sneaky or something. We didn't plan it that way, but we realized that kindness actually works. It pays off. There are rewards that come with it. So we decided that we were going to donate and invest in the science of kindness because we felt if we could prove how valuable kindness was, more people, more organizations would adopt it as part of their value system.
And so with our work with kindness.org, we sat down with them and said, okay, where can we do research to validate the power of kindness and have it have the most profound ripple effect? And kindness.org said, well, adults spend about 60% of their adult life in the workplace. And so if we can somehow alter and change or make workplace culture kinder, then that has profound ripple effect throughout the community. And so we said, okay, in order to validate this, we're going to get researchers from Harvard, we're going to get researchers from Oxford, and what they did was created a very specific questionnaire that could validate how kind your workplace was.
You actually get a kindness score of your workplace. And
what was great, and that's actually how we reconnected with the alumni office when Lisa sent that t-shirt to us. And we were working with, in order to validate the scientific tool, we needed representation from so many different industries. And we did not have an educational or academic partner. And so Lisa sent that email right at the time that we were thinking, okay, should we get back my alma mater? Where should we go? And I immediately emailed her back and said, we're doing this revolutionary study on kindness, and we want you to help participate in that. And so the College of Arts and Letters participated in the research project with us. Now, because now the tool has been validated, companies from around the world can choose to implement that tool in their company, and they can see how they measure up either to companies within their own industry or to companies of any type.
And more importantly, they can use that score and test year after year to see if their company is getting kinder. And the rest of us can get results, hopefully one day, from companies to see how kind they are, not just how profitable they are or how big they're growing and scaling, but how kind they are. And we hope that we can prove, like Beekman 1802, that the kinder the company, the more successful it can be. Because it's those sort of metrics, measurable metrics that will actually spread kindness more than just being kind. And then a lot of people ask, that very first act of kindness, of course, was Farmer John. And everybody always wants to know where Farmer John is, what's he doing. Well, Farmer John is, right now, he's doing second feeding.
No, it's baby goat tours today on the farm.
Oh, baby goat tours. So
Yes.
he's leading the baby goat tours. Farmer John is still with us, still lives on the farm. He's a full-time Beekman employee now. I think the most amazing thing is we've never had a lease, we've never had an agreement, we've never had a contract, we've never had anything. It's still that first handshake that we had when he came over, and we agreed to have him come in with a letter. So he's still with us. And that is our story of kindness and how we were. Oh, I want to say one thing, great example. I told you when we drove into town, there was one business that had lights on in Sharon Springs. Today, there's not a single available retail space on the entire Main Street. So that's the power of it.